Yay! Hello everyone! Welcome to the Transatlantic Call-In Show. This is a call-in show where you can call in and talk to some trans people and you can ask anything you want. Even if you are a massive prick, but as long as you're not just calling in just to shout slurs, we will take your question, even if it's offensive, even if it's spicy, even if you hate us. We would love to hear from you. In fact, I kind of prefer those callers at the moment. Let's have as many spicy callers as we can. But you can also ask nice questions if you like. This week you can talk to me, Katy Montgomerie, who is a trans woman from the UK, and
student Dr. Ben, soon to be Dr. Ben in 99 days. We're out of the 100s now,
nice.
so it's very soon. I'm, I guess, also a dickhead on the internet, but I'm going to be a family medicine physician just in a couple months. So.
Yeah, that's exciting. Only 99 days. Do you have like a countdown on your wall?
I do. I have a countdown.
Nice. Yeah, no, that's pretty cool. And you're gonna have to change all of your like YouTube channel name and everything because Student Dr. Ben is your brand.
Yeah, all the branding is gonna change.
You're gonna have to do, or you could. Another option is just pretend that Student Dr. Ben has died and you have risen from the ashes as Dr. Ben, like Gandalf the White, and you have no memory of your former self and starting afresh, and you can just be like Ben, I remember that name.
It's like my YouTube dead name. It's like, so I've got my real life dead name and then my YouTube dead name. So I'll just have two dead names now.
So unrelated but kind of related. I was thinking of a strategy of escaping people dead naming you would be to just have like, I mean, this may be impractical in America, we have to pay for name changes, but in the UK, name changes are free. So maybe just have like 100 dead names. Like if you've got like, if you're a trans woman and you've currently got like, your birth name, man's name, whatever, before you change to the name you want, change it to like 16 different men's names, just like every week while you're building up for it. And then change it to like 16 different women's names or something, any other names you like. And then when you finally get there, then when you ever get a form that's like, write down your previous names, you won't have space for them all. And you'll just have to write down like, all of the different like other dead names you have, and then people will find your dead name and they'll be like, your dead name was Sam, and you'll be like, yeah, but it was also Dave, and it was also Neil, and it was also Carl, so like it was just all the men's names, and then like every name is a dead name, and then but anyway, if anyone does use that strategy, please do call in and tell us how it went in real life, because that will be amazing. But yeah, Ben, how's your week been? Other than counting down?
Yeah, it's been all right. I'm on a super chill rotation right now. So I'm on allergy and immunology at the Veterans Administration. So we literally see like 2 or 3 patients a day, and then I go home. So that's why I'm here today. It's nice. But how have you been?
Yeah, I've been good. I guess this may be the first show I've done since Christmas. Is this the first show of the year? I don't even know. Happy New Year and Christmas and Happy War on Christmas and all those other things. It was good. I hosted my first ever Christmas for my family. Like everyone came to where I live, and I cooked all the dinner for everyone, and it was really cool. I just felt like an adult. Hosting everyone. We did the presents in my house. I had my first ever real Christmas tree, which was fun. Yeah, it was a good time. And New Year's, I didn't do anything too exciting, just had loads more food. So I put on loads of weight, and the goal is now generic January, lose some weight situation, which I think lots of us are feeling. But yeah, it's been good. But another thing that has been good is, and perhaps we'll talk about this more in the show, and maybe someone wants to call in about it, but I was talking about this earlier today on Twitter, is the gender critical movement at the end of 2023 in the UK suffered quite a lot of defeats in a row, and it's kind of going good, like on politics. I feel like just before Christmas, everything kind of cooled off. We won a bunch of stuff that I think was more losses for them than wins for us. Like it was pretty good for us and really bad for them. And it's just totally taken the wind out of their sails. And they're kind of moping about it at the moment. And that's meant, like, one of the biggest stresses in my life is the state of politics for trans rights. And I really care what's going on in the USA and other countries in Europe and around the world. But when it's on your own doorstep, it's terrifying. And just
Mhm.
when that backs off a little bit, it gives you such breathing space that you can think more calmly about, what's going on in general, and sort of wider moves to combat transphobia and fight for trans rights around the world. So that's good. And it's kind of given me more energy. And this year I feel like more enthused and less kind of crushed. And I was talking to Arden yesterday actually, and saying how like this time last year both of us were totally burnt out from how horrifying it was all going. I don't know. How are you feeling on that front?
I'm still. I mean, I'm burnt out from multiple fronts. Mostly, I kind of hate where my brain is at right now, honestly, because like I'm in med school burnout like so bad right now that like my level
Of
of
course.
apathy is already through the roof. Um, but but in terms of trans issues, like some things have made me more hopeful, but other things have made me very concerned. Especially within my own field. Like I'm very happy that the various medical boards have been advocating, but I don't think they're doing enough yet in the United States. I think they need to be more vocal because, like, as authorities on this, they should be more at the front line. And I'm a little bit worried for the fields of pediatrics, the fields of psychiatry, and like those patients that are being affected by legislation because you're essentially tying doctors' hands, and it doesn't matter at that point what individual doctors are, if they're supportive or not, because at the end of the day, if they try to go up against any of that legislation, like they're going to get penalized for it, and then you take a doctor out of commission. So it's like you end up in a really really tight spot, and so I'm a little worried. Hopefully, it'll get better here. I'm not super optimistic at this point, but I am going to try in residency. I don't know exactly the requirements for my program, but many programs require research to be done during residency. And I think I have some
Right.
ideas for my research that I want to do with the NIH, if at all possible, since I'll be right there, about transgender people in primary care. And especially, I want to look at risks and kind of um, risks and necessity of like early transition. So like, are there people that have more adverse effects because they are delayed in receiving gender affirming care? So what is the harm of the delay? And then is there a way to stratify people to where like you could say objectively this person meets XYZ like concerns that would warrant them getting care earlier, even extending like into pediatric ages? I think that'd be helpful since I know there's a lot of pushback on pediatric gender affirming care. So we're gonna see if I want to see if I can develop some tools. I don't quite know what this is all gonna look like yet because this is just me brainstorming, but hopefully we'll get some things coming down the pipeline soon.
So, just on that topic, talking of doctor stuff and you like making the world a better place. Just before we go on to the polls, I want to read out this amazing YouTube comment, not from any of our videos, just one I stumbled across in the wild, and see what you think compared to what you were just saying about, doing some research and stuff. And this person, so they say, don't do the sex change. A nurse at a hospital, don't know who, said that does nothing but sex changes even on children, said that not one of them can ever pee right, and lots also have bowel problems. The M to F ones get vaginal stenosis. The body heals up the wound, it closes up. They all go through physical hell. All of them regret it. I knew two that had it done, and they both died at 35, and the other one was 42. Died of heart attacks. The body is not meant to be on powerful drugs. If they miss meds for 30 days, the body converts back. It is alive
I have
for money.
I have so many questions. I have so many questions about that. I mean, like, because we don't do sex change surgeries on children. So I'm curious about at what age did they get the surgery, and then if they died in their 30s or 40s, from what? What killed them?
Heart
Like
attacks.
one of the
But,
yeah. So
but the thing is, Ben, you are true or false. You are not a doctor.
that is true. I'm not.
And this
Yeah.
person allegedly is a nurse. So, audience, make up your own mind about the appeal to authority there. But yeah, just make sure everyone take your hormones or 30 days off them, and you will magically transform back. Anyway, let's move on to the polls. We've done a lot of talking. So every week we ask a poll question and see what the audience at home have thoughts on our question. So we were asking, this is relevant to what I was just talking about. How optimistic are you about the fight for trans rights in 2023? 7% very optimistic, 47% cautiously optimistic, 26% are already tired. Yeah, I think you can be cautiously optimistic and already tired. 15% are terrified, and 5% are other. I don't know if we need to comment on this much because I feel like I just asked you it about like 5 minutes ago, just before.
And I
but if
talked
you got
about
anything
this,
to say,
I talked about this with Arden the first time. So I mean, I think at that time I said I was cautiously terrified. So because I don't know if I'm quite ready to put myself in the optimistic category yet. But I'm not like 100% terrified. So that's where I put myself for all the reasons we just mentioned.
Yeah, I mean, I am kind of like the middle three, but less terrified. I think in those ratios, 47, 26, 15, so the golden ratio, I say. But like, that seems reasonable to me. I'm pleased that some people are very optimistic. That's good to know. I presume you all came out yesterday and your souls and dreams will be crushed soon, but enjoy it while you still can. But yeah, let's look at this week's poll question and see what everyone thinks. This one is spicy. Ben, do you? I know what I was thinking when I was writing it.
Yeah, this is a very spicy one.
Everyone blame me for this one. Do you want to take it first, and then I'll?
Yeah, you wrote it, and you're gonna make me read it.
I can do it if you like. I just wondered that I can do it first and pick up like.
Yeah.
So I was just going to see if you wanted to comment on it and call me out before I go. But do you want me to do it?
You can go.
Hey, right. So everyone, I think this is going to cause a lot of arguments. I'm kind of feeling lazy writing the question, but do you like the term transsexual? And the options are, yes, I use it for myself. This next one is the answer that's going to get people angry, and I can understand why. Yes, they are the only real trans people. No, it is a slur. No, it's only for elitists and trans meds, and don't care. And I think I'll just say my position straight away so you can understand, because I think one of the key things when you see someone use the word transsexual is they're either like from 50 years ago, or they don't really know what they're talking about, or often, if it's a trans person saying it, they think they're better than everyone else. They think that there's only a handful of real, true transsexuals, and everyone else is a poser transgender, and they're all trans-trenders, and they're faking it, and it's just kids with blue hair who want attention. And I think that a lot of people see some people like that, these kind of like true trans types. I'm the only real trans person. They see that, and then they see the other people saying it are like people using it as a slur, or people from ages ago who don't really respect trans rights and all this kind of stuff, and they get a bad impression of it. And so when they see someone else say it, they get that impression, and I think that's reasonably understandable. So I don't mind the word, because if you remove it from the context and the history, and what it means today in online culture wars, it's like it's fine. Like, it doesn't. I mean, the confusing. I can see why people changed it, because transsexual sounds like homosexual, and then people used to think. Well, still a lot of people think being trans is just like a type of being gay, and can cause confusion there. But then at the same time, I feel like as someone who like medically transitioned, because I mean my gender identity didn't change and my sex characteristics did. So the thing that transed was the sex part. But then I mean I don't really care. It's not a big deal to me. What when it does matter is when it's used either by some arrogant knobhead who's trying to say non-binary people don't exist, or when it's used by someone who doesn't know what they're talking about, like culture war things. So if someone's like, I like the word transsexual for myself, then I'm like, cool. As long as I'm a little suspicious of you straight away, and as long as you can show to me that you're not some kind of elitist twat, then that's fine. But if you're clicking on option 2, then I think that you're part of the problem. I did a video about this called I'm One of the Good Ones. I think that what you're usually doing, most of the people like that are trying to get validation from transphobic cis people and are selling out other trans people to the detriment of all of us, including the person doing the selling out, just, for likes or just for a minimum reduction in abuse and stuff. But then some people see it as a slur, and like if you feel slurred by it, then that's cool, and I would never call you it. That's totally fine. But I do think that it is possible to have a non-culture war like of this word. Like you could be like, oh, I just feel like it describes me better, but I think all trans people are valid, and I support rights for non-binary people. And in that case, if you go around telling them they can't call themselves it because you think it's a slur, I feel like that's also kind of dubious. I mean, it's not as bad as the dickheads who are trying to say they're better than everyone else, but one of the key things about like understanding trans history is we're still coming up with words and terms and understandings for everything. We've only really just started organizing as a minority group in the last 50 years or less, really. And we're only getting to the point now where we're collecting together all of our knowledge and listening to all of each other and stuff. But that means that we have all of these people with, vastly different terms. And like you had people alive in like the 50s and 60s and stuff who, by today's standards, they're medically transitioning and they view themselves as like a woman or a man or whatever. They would almost certainly describe themselves as a trans person today, a trans man or a trans woman or transsexual or whatever, transgender, but at the time called themselves a transvestite because that was the only word they had. Today, I would never call anyone a transvestite, but if they wanted to call themselves that, if that was the word that spoke to them, and they weren't trying to do it to invalidate other people, they weren't trying to do it to feel better than people, they weren't trying to say trans people are just dressing up, if that was just how they described it, or another word, then in the end, I don't think it matters. And it's like their intentions. And I would say to them, just so you know, lots of people are probably not going to be a massive fan of this word and aren't going to want to describe themselves as it. I would be horrified if someone described me as a transvestite. Lol. But I just think it's worth being aware of it. So I think if I had to click on this poll, I would probably say, it is kind of just for elitists and trans meds. I don't use it for myself, but I don't mind it. I probably click don't care, but I'm aware that other people care. And for everyone who's a bit upset by this debate in the comment, I take full responsibility. Don't go for anyone else. Don't go for Ben. Don't go for this crew. Come and have a go at me for causing an argument. But yeah, I don't know.
That's why I made Katy go first.
Ben, what's your take? Cancel yourself now.
I don't like the term. I fully acknowledge that, like, there are people that want to take back this term, and I'm totally fine with people who feel that way and who want to use it for themselves. If I hear this, though, my guards go up immediately. Like, if I'm having a conversation with somebody, it's kind of a signal to me that you don't really understand what's going on. You're not as safe maybe as I thought you were. Like, it definitely makes me more hesitant to be open and honest with you. Because the places where I see this are with those trans meds and with people who are transphobic, just flat out transphobic, or even in the medical community, you see this a lot with people who view trans people as having a mental illness, or really old doctors that have read this once in a book and then like will label you with a pathology and then never talk about it again. I actually, there was, my school actually had us do like a training about like trans people, which was, it was funny because like we had to do a quiz about it, and it was like all the basic questions of like, what is gender identity, like what are trans people, and it's like, yeah, okay, I think I'm okay here. But I appreciate that they're having us do that, because a lot of my classmates, I'm not confident, know this stuff, and I was very happy that they addressed like, hey, don't call your patients transsexual, because that's an outdated term. That's not something we really use now. So that's kind of how I view it. Like, it's not like I'm going to assume that you're absolutely a terrible person because you use this word, but I'm going to be hesitant to go forward in conversation. I might back off a little bit with what I was like, if I was going to say anything more personal or anything more confidential. Like, it kind of puts a little bit of a trust barrier in the way for me.
Until you've proven that you're not bad, I guess.
Yeah, like if you're a trans person, like, and if I know you, or if we get to know each other and I know that you are one of those people that's taking back ownership of this word, yeah, well, fine. I'm not gonna have any problems with it. But it's mostly like, I haven't seen a lot of trans people use this word. It's mostly cis people. And especially when a cis person uses this word, I'm like, hold on, like, I probably with them, I would say something like, hey, this is an outdated term. Like, probably don't use this for everybody. But that's kind of my stance on it.
It's become a term that the gender criticals say, because they like to create this idea of a time before transgenderism. There was just a handful of real transsexuals who respected women and gay people, and then now everything's changed. So they're like, I don't hate trans people, I respect real transsexuals. And then I'm just like, well, whatever your definition of real transsexual is, like, I meet it, and you don't respect me, you're a dickhead. And then they block you or whatever. But yeah, I think it's a spicy topic, but I guess, and it's completely pointless saying be prepared to hear other people out, because I guess I remember there was something where there was some, I can't remember what the situation, what the setup was, but I stumbled into some conversation and there was some trans person who was in their 60s or something and had recently come out, and I kind of joined in this conversation. They sent me a message and they were kind of getting attacked by quite a few trans people, because they describe themselves as a transsexual, and people saying it's a slur, and they're like, no, it's not, you kids don't understand. And it kind of took the image of this like, I'm a real transsexual kind of cultural conversation. And when I talked to them in DM, they had no idea. Like, they'd only really just discovered Twitter, and they didn't know anything about anything, and that was just the term they knew. And they were like, I didn't even know. I didn't know transgender was the new like accepted one. And I was like, yeah, that's cool, I understand. And I think that all of these people arguing and hating on each other when they weren't enemies, and it's good to listen to all trans people, and then as soon as you realize someone's a prick, then you can treat them as your enemy. But until then, give people the benefit of the doubt. But yeah, I don't know. Sorry, Ben, for jumping you in in probably the spiciest question we've asked on there.
Yeah. I mean, I didn't have the spiciest of answers, but we'll see what the comments are after this.
Yeah, it might be good to read some out.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. Anyway, let's move on to some calls. We currently have a space for one more caller. If anyone wants to call in, now is your chance, because it is very rare for us to get this stage in the show and have one more caller. But while we are waiting for that, we still have plenty of callers lined up. And first, we're going to talk to Isaac in North Carolina, who potentially has two questions, but we'll take the first one first and see how much time we have. But Isaac, which question would you like to ask?
Well, I think you really answered my first question. I'll just put some perspective on it for me. I am a 50-something cis white hetero male, and my youngest is a transmasculine. My youngest son is transmasculine, but is being only 14, not interested in hormone replacement therapy, and not interested in any kind of pursuing any kind of surgery or anything, just changing his name and his pronouns and wanting to be accepted that way. And of course we did that, but we've had some pushback from people that said, well, you know, what we just in me and the screener just qualified as the no trans Scotsman fallacy. So I think you answered it in your discussion of your question. So, you know, I thank you for bringing that subject up, because you know, I think there are people that are in the margins that might be, you know, worried that they won't be accepted into the group, quote unquote.
Yeah.
So, you know, that I was just glad to see you guys bring that up. It was, I don't get a whole lot of opportunity to be available when you guys are online, and so I really wanted to get in here and say, well, number one, thank you, Katy and Ben, for everything you guys have done for the community, and for the, you know, the kind of the image that you put forward that my son is able to look up to and try and emulate, you know, in the fact of being proud of who he is.
Oh, amazing! That's really great to hear. I'm glad that
Yeah, thank you.
You know, as growing up, I didn't really have any trans role models, and it kind of held me back. I hope that your son spends a lot more time looking up to Ben than me, but you know, it's even dickheads can be good role models sometimes, so it's all good.
Right.
But yeah,
you know, if we listen to the show in the car on the way to school in the mornings after it comes up on Thursday.
That's awesome.
It's amazing.
Anyway, so
but did you? I have another question.
My spicy question. I have my spicy question.
Nice.
So I am a healthy adult male, as I said, cisgender white male. One of my favorite types of porn to consume, not the only one, of course, is transgender, trans feminine person, and interacting with another female. I'm not really into, for whatever reason, like you say, you know, what gets you off gets you off. I'm not interested in there being a man involved in that equation. But I worry, just like I worry about, you know, like I specifically don't consume any kind of media that involves young females, that, especially from foreign countries, that I worry about might be, you know, pressured into that or coerced in some way. You know, I prefer to see mature adults who seem to know what they're doing or are mostly involved in, you know, call it, you know, amateur stuff. But I was curious about your take on trans bodies in porn, because I worry that it's, you know, maybe capturing stereotypes and bringing them forward. And, you know, I don't like to promote that kind of thought.
Right. Yeah, this is I mean, this is a specifically trans discussion, but this is also like a wider feminist discussion about what pornography does to like society and like the general view of women. And I think there are a lot of you know, there's a lot of arguments for and against porn, and there are some really crappy arguments against porn, like, oh no, because sex is bad, or, you know, because God said, or, and a lot of people take those, or people who are just horrified by it. But I think the kind of truest form radical feminist argument against porn, which could be, even if someone is consenting to doing porn, you know, or everyone involved, you know, from the viewer to the, you know, the performer and that kind of stuff, and even if it is feeding them and putting money on the table, and even if it is better than their other job, what it is doing is creating this industry and art form, which is based upon, in most cases, not all cases, of course, women as sex objects, and that teaches people that women's sex is like a commodity and available for purchase and available on demand, and women are able to be dehumanized in some situations, and whether you think that means that outrules all of the positives of porn, which can be people coming out of poverty, or escaping horrible jobs, or taking control over their life, and etc., etc. You might think it overrules that, or you might think it doesn't. And different people are going to have different views on that. I'm kind of taking a wuss out fence sitting position here, but I do think that is a good anti-porn argument, even if it itself doesn't justify like banning porn. There are some good anti-arguments of things that you support, is basically what I'm trying to say. But I think that's especially true for trans porn, in that we are even more fetishized. There's this kind of feminist distinction where it's called like the Madonna whore dichotomy or something like that, which is basically where, to a lot of men, women are either seen as this perfect, like motherly figure who is feminine and gives birth and is perfect and can't be harmed and stuff, or they're a whore and they're like a disposable sex object. And all of them want their daughters to be the Madonnas, but they want their sex partners to be the whore. And it's like, once you become one, you can't go back to the other one. And women get put into these boxes. And I think with fetishized minorities like trans people, but also other groups, including people of color, they get put into this like whore box and they can't get out of it. And it means that that can contribute to dehumanization in society. It's like lots of people think that trans people are just sex objects, or it's just a fetish. And when they see a trans person, they'll be like, oh, this is someone who only exists to be porn, and I don't like that. It's disgusting to me. So I don't think this person should have any rights. And that's an argument I encounter a lot on the internet. And it's obviously garbage. These people are obviously stupid. It's dehumanizing. It's hateful. But the thing is, people do think it, and it is reinforced by this. And so we've got to just be aware of that. But I think, and the last thing before I hand over to Ben is, it is interesting, and I think very predictable. I think if you understand like the feminist arguments around porn, finding out that if you look at the state map of who consumes the most trans porn, it's all the Republican states, and basically the more brutal their anti-trans laws are, the more trans porn they watch. That makes a lot of sense. That's not to say everyone who watches trans porn is transphobic. I mean, certainly not. But a lot of people who are transphobic do watch it, and it's because to them, how they view porn is as some kind of power thing, like purely power, and they get to treat these people as subhuman. And that's why we see in places with more extreme anti-trans views, and it's it's the same that we see with places with more racist views. You see more women of color in the porn searches, and it's just a thing. So there's a lot here, and I think it'd be interesting to ask this question to Arden, because she's gonna have a lot of views. Would be a nice way of putting it, but and I would trust her a lot more than I would trust me. But Ben, it would be interesting to hear your take.
Yeah, I don't have a whole lot to say on this issue, because Arden's really the person to go to about this. But I mean, kind of the biggest thing that I was thinking, like Katy brings up a lot of good points about how this isn't such a black and white issue, and there's a lot of gray areas here. But something that came to my mind was like how sometimes this line of work has become a necessity for a good number of trans people, simply because of the stigma and with trans people in the workplace and inability to find a job and keep a job as a trans person just on your basis of being trans. And when you're in that kind of situation, like I don't feel great about the idea of taking away someone's job that's like their only,
Yeah.
really their only way to survive. And I know some of them love doing it. Like I have friends that really enjoy that kind of work. I have friends that do it just because they need to. And either way, like it's kind of sticky, and I don't want to speak for that whole community when I'm
Sticky's a
not
pun.
really involved in it. Yeah, it is.
Sorry.
Great word choice on my part, but yeah, but I can see why this is a complicated discussion to have, and I appreciate you bringing this kind of to the forefront of the discussion for today, because I think it's a conversation that is worth having more, and it's worth considering what are we doing besides just with regard to consent? Like, how does this impact the greater community of trans people and the greater community of women in general, and like even trans men are a huge part of this conversation too. Like there's a whole subcategory of trans men in the porn industry that I don't think we really ever talk about, and maybe we need some more info on that, which I'm honestly not super familiar with everything going on in that kind of circle, but definitely worth having the discussion when Arden's on, for sure.
Yeah, I think it'd be good. I think the point about it being a lot of trans people's jobs is really important to like highlight, because trans people as like a group are overrepresented in sex work and also overrepresented in sex trafficking, because like Ben says, it's often the only thing that trans people can do. And I think then you have the extra kind of layer of difficulty of like, you're obviously wanting to pick people who are fully, in every sense, like enthusiastically consenting to this. And it's easy to find examples of people who are like that, where they'll say, I have all the jobs available to me and I have a stable living condition and I've just chosen this because I want to do it. But when you also factor that in, how trans people are kind of forced into it in a lot of cases, sometimes actively, as in trafficked, sometimes as in that's the only choice, but also sometimes as like conditioned into doing it, or like sort of covertly coerced into it by society and people. It kind of gives you this situation of like, how do you find the best way to do that knowingly? It is, yes, it's a very difficult minefield. I guess what I would say to anyone is the least you can do is be aware of it, and then if you're watching porn, then you want to do it as ethically as you can, I guess. Yeah, I don't know. It's a good argument question, though, to tack it onto our discussion about whether you use the word transsexual and then to go straight into saying that there are some good anti-porn arguments. This show is definitely going to have some spicy comments, but I think it is a good question, and I think it's going to be interesting listening to that in the car with your son.
That's why I used a pseudonym.
Good stuff.
Oh, that's good stuff. Okay.
But yeah, thanks for the question.
I appreciate your guys' input. It definitely kind of tracks with the thinking in my head, because obviously, like you said, there is some overlap between the people that choose it, the people that are doing it because it's their best outlet, and then the people who are in that unfortunate category, that it's so difficult to decipher between, and anything like that's kind of outside of the mainstream is of course difficult to parse internally. So I'm glad you took my call, and I appreciate your input, and I'll let you move on.
Cool. Thanks, Isaac. Bye. Right. So yeah, I feel like I'm still kind of learning on this topic, and I feel like I could talk about it for ages. But also I'm very uninformed. So I'm always a bit nervous about just saying something really dumb and be like, I just don't know the statistics on this. So Anyway, let's move on to Fiona in California, who wants to talk about imposter syndrome. Fiona, how can we help?
Hey.
Yeah, well, I guess that was the best way that I could describe it because I'm having. So, in a nutshell, I have newly discovered that I'm a trans female, and I'm a little bit older, so I'm worried about how the physical transition is going to manifest. But I'm also in a position, both personally and financially, that I can't quite physically begin to transition. And the problem is that while I am very LGBT positive and I have friends that are, the fact that I'm not able to push myself to do the physical transition makes me feel like a coward.
Right. I think I guess my first response to that is it's okay if you are a coward. Like, transition is fucking scary. It's a big deal. There's so many implications for your entire life, like medical, social, legal, everything. That's fine. Like, I think if a trans person said they weren't scared of transition, at least to some degree, they're probably lying. And people put it off for decades. And I wouldn't, if someone said, look, I've talked to people who have said, I've known I'm trans since I was 10 and now I'm 60 and I haven't transitioned because I'm terrified. And or they've just come out, and I just my reaction to that is like, good for them to finally do it, not, oh, you're a wuss, oh, you should have done better. Like, it's fucking horrible. So don't beat yourself up for it, because if it takes one more day and one more week, one more month, one more year, that's fine. It's your life, and you've got to balance the pros and cons, and some of that is fear. But what you got to do is make sure, for your own sake, that you don't just stand at the edge waiting to jump in forever and then miss your chance. And that's not because I think you should be a stronger person or less of a coward or anything. Statistically, most people who transition, makes their life better. But I do know that it can easily be paralyzed by fear. And, if you're like, right, today isn't the day, that's fine. But if you feel yourself saying today isn't the day every single day for 10 years, maybe it's time to just push yourself. You're never going to be 100% sure. Get to 99% and just jump. Yeah, I don't know. What do you think, Ben?
That's actually really prescient advice, because I was talking to this with my therapist, and I think one of the other things that kind of ties into one of the fears that I have of transitioning is I've got a boatload of other issues that I'm trying to work through, but I haven't had gender dysphoria my whole life. That hasn't started until about college, but I've had self-esteem issues my whole life. And I coped with that by creating an alternate world that I was able to live in. And the trans version of myself, the female version of myself that I've put in there, is the only version of myself that I felt hasn't let me down yet. And I'm terrified that if I let her out, she will. So I've been trying to take steps. Go on, please.
Oh yeah, no, I wanna jump into this conversation because I feel like I am the king of imposter syndrome. I have imposter syndrome.
Are you qualified for that though, Ben? Are you really good enough for that?
I don't know. I don't know if I am, honestly. No, I have imposter syndrome in every single area of my life. In fact, guess who called into one of the first episodes of Transatlantic about imposter syndrome being a trans person? Is me. I did that. I have imposter syndrome in medical school. Like I'm graduating in like just a few months, and my brain has not processed that it's actually happening because I believe I'm going to fail. Like, even though there's really no way for me to fail at this point, my brain still believes that I'm going to. And I do have an anxiety disorder. I've had an anxiety disorder for a long time. So like, I totally understand this thought process and why this is so terrifying. When I first came out to myself, I definitely had thoughts of, am I really trans? Like, I know all these other people are really trans, but what if I'm not? What if I go through this transition and it's awful and I hate it and I wish I didn't do it? Like, I think we all have those fears. It's a very realistic fear. And I think it's appropriate that you have it, because I wouldn't want anybody to go through something that they don't need to go through. That's going to make them feel worse. It is important that you figure out, that you actually do want to do it. And it's really hard taking the steps to finally give yourself the injection or take the pill or whatever transition you're going to start with. Even the small things like growing out your hair or anything, it can be absolutely daunting to try to take on those tasks. Have you, have you started with anything that is reversible? Have you done kind of like more of the social changes, or is that still on the table as well?
No, the social changes I have done completely.
Okay.
All of the people that I want to know already know. I have been keeping it very close to the chest, and the people that I've told, I've asked not to tell other people because, like I said, the place where I work is not exactly trans accepting, but is perfect in almost every other way. So
here's
weighing the pros and cons of that.
So here's the good news though about medical transition, especially if you're starting with HRT. The good news is that it takes time for things to kick in. It's like the GCs make a lot of arguments of you're going to change irreversibly in 2 days, and that doesn't happen. It takes time. I know it's even a quicker process for a lot of trans masc people. I know the process for trans femmes often takes longer. So you can go on HRT for a few weeks, maybe even a month or so, and see if you really like it. I know for me, I felt confident, changes in my confidence, even within the first couple of days of being on testosterone. And then the physical changes as they kept coming, it's been so gradual. I'm even almost, I guess, still a year and a half out. So I'm still pretty early. And a lot of things, I don't really have facial hair yet. My 4 beard hairs that no one can tell are there. My voice has changed, but there's a good window of time that you can try and see how it makes you feel. And you know what? If you take some estrogen and you say, this really isn't for me, I don't like how I feel on this, you can stop. And probably at that point, the changes really wouldn't have happened physically. Otherwise, even if you go a little bit longer, and you start, if you like it initially and you start, seeing some changes, a lot of the early changes are more reversible. So I think that's something that is comforting. So it's scary to take the plunge, and it feels like it's such a big decision, and it kind of is, but it also kind of isn't. It's not as big of a change at the very beginning as we think it is, and hopefully that makes it a bit less scary, a bit less difficult to make that decision for yourself. But also, if you ever decide you don't want to do that, if you say, I've considered this and I don't want to undergo any of the medical transition, that's totally fine as well. You are allowed to not do it. So
on the thing Ben was just saying about you can see how you feel, it's interesting about that because I've seen people saying, both trans men and women and non-binary people saying, as soon as I started HRT, I felt better, and it's obvious. If you feel a load better, then you're probably going to carry on in it. And then when I started HRT, basically it made me feel a lot worse, and I was like, I kind of feel awful. I was having emotional stuff, and hormone changing can make you feel awful. It's like being a teenager again, and you get all moody. And then I was like, so I could stop any time. This is awful, but I don't want to. There's more than just the sort of physical feeling better. I was like, it just felt like the right thing to do. HRT made me feel worse for a bit and more anxious. Changed what was on, levels sorted out and stuff, and now I feel a lot better than I did before. Just generally and in terms of emotions and stuff. But there was a time when that got worse, and it still felt like the right thing, even though I still felt like I wasn't 100% sure. And even though I was terrified of it, and I put it off, like I came up to everyone too. I like went full time 6 months before I started HRT because I just wanted to be sure.
Mhm.
But yeah, it's different for everyone. It's scary. Don't punish yourself. You're not an imposter.
That's actually the thing that I've been asking myself, and I mean, you guys are echoing the same thing that everybody around me has echoed. So I'm fortunate to have a supportive environment. Have I earned my transness? And I mean, I would have told myself if this was anybody else that I wouldn't have needed to ask that question. So
yeah. Yeah, the answer to have you earned your transness is no, fuck off, no one has, because you don't earn being trans.
Yeah.
But if you want yes, then you can have a yes.
Yeah, I mean, it's I'm informing you of who I am, not earning something. But,
no, I know what you mean. It's easy. So go on.
Oh no, please go on. I don't want to talk over you.
No, I was just going to say it's easy to buy into like the cis framing of things, even though when you're describing, it's like, oh yeah, have I earned this or not? And then you say earn's a rubbish word. You're like, of course. I don't mean earn, but I just said it because that's like what a cis person would say, and they've indoctrinated all this bullshit into you, and then you're like, oh yeah, no, that's nonsense. I'm informing you, and then, but yeah. Just don't stress.
Yeah.
I know that's utterly impossible, but that's my main advice. My main advice that I absolutely will not take for myself. Yeah. I'm glad that's helped.
Yeah, no. I mean, a lot of the stuff that you've said has kind of resonated with me. It's kind of sort of matched some of the stuff that I've been doing a little bit already. So I guess I'm just sort of on the right path, and I just kind of need to rip off the Band-Aid. But I hope. Yeah, no. I'm gonna go ahead and let you get on to other callers, but before I do, I'm such huge fans of you guys. You guys are amazing. I especially love all of your amazing facts, Katie, and I will continue to listen to you.
Amazing.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Fiona. I appreciate it. Bye. So don't forget, everyone, that you can call in, but we're probably full on callers this week. But if you want, you can also super chat us. And if you super chat $5 or more, then we will read out your super chat at the end of the show. And it's usually quite fun and quite funny. And me and Ben obviously have pretty much, I would say, in human history, the greatest rivalry of all time. The most epic story battle between us of all time. I mean, I can't even think of any other worthy ones to compare us to be honest. But that's
I have to eat Weetabix today, so
that is why at the end of the show, Ben lost last time because we got lots of hashtag Team Katie's, and I know that's going to happen again this time because watching Ben have to eat a dry Weetabix is going to be so funny. Everyone's got to vote for me again. So if you want to super chat and hashtag Team Katie, or if you want to do a sympathy vote for Ben, that's fine. We would love to read them out at the end.
Yeah, give the one with imposter syndrome the sympathy votes. Yeah, tell me more that I don't deserve to be here.
we like Ben's the worst host. We only have him on as like a sympathy, feel like he's doing so bad at medical school that we have him on here to even it out. Right. So we're going to talk to Lee in New York, who wants to talk about trans representation, both generally and in the world of gaming. Lee, you there?
Yes, I'm here. Sorry about that.
Hello.
Can you hear me okay?
That's okay. Yeah, we can hear you fine. Go for it.
Awesome. So my question was, it was a kind of a back and forth with the call screener. It was a little difficult to ask the question, but I'm going to give it a shot. The question I was trying to ask was, there was a gamer who won a very large profile video game tournament not too long back, and it came out sometime later that it was a trans woman. And I immediately thought, I asked myself, why wasn't this more promoted? Why I hadn't seen any more stories about it? But then I started to think, maybe that's better. The fact that it was kind of like normal, that no one kind of, spoke out about it like it was a huge thing. So I was kind of wondering, like, do you think it would be better for it to be kind of something that flies under the radar and something that's kind of normal, or something that you would kind of want to be promoted or talked about more, which would kind of give people, let people know that there's a huge representation, or not a huge representation, but a representation of trans people in things that they might not know that, they're in, like competitive gaming.
Ben, do you want to take this one? I've done loads of talking.
Yeah, I personally, I think like the more we normalize trans people, kind of the better it is for the community. And I think like having the knowledge that the competitor is trans, like I think it's a cool like piece of information to include like in their bio or like when introducing the person. Like I think it's fine to have that be a characteristic that you mention, as long as the person is consenting to that being part of their bio or whatever. Like I think it's fine. I don't think it should be like blown up like the only thing you think about this person is that they're trans, because I feel like that's kind of where it goes a little bit sometimes. It goes to this area of tokenism, or like, oh, we have this trans person who plays the game, and like, wow, you're doing so great for a trans person. Like along the same lines of like, you're so good at sports for a woman. Like those conversations are really painful. So I think like it's okay to mention like that someone's trans, but like keep it normal, like a normal fact of their life, just like you were saying, yeah, this person's favorite color is blue and they were born in this month of the year and they're from this town. Like, oh, a fun fact, they're also trans. Like it's just part of anybody's bio. And I think that's kind of the way that we need to go forward with it. I don't know, Katie, do you have any different thoughts on that?
Yeah, I guess I think the ultimate goal is that no one cares and it's not really mentioned. Like we don't need left-handed gamer wins, although that might have been controversial once. But I do probably think we're in the phase in between where it is kind of good, and if maybe the person you're talking about requested to not be, mentioned as trans. Sometimes I go on podcasts and that's an important fact, and other times I don't say it, even though I guess it's always known. But I do think it's probably for trans people worldwide beneficial if it is said that someone's trans. Obviously, no one ever should be forcibly outed, and it's rubbish when someone is known as a trans person or whatever. But just the fact that, as particularly cis people seeing trans people just doing normal stuff, I think that's going to be how we win overall in the long term, having trans rights, across the world. I was thinking about this recently as well, because in the UK, for a number of weeks, number one on top of the charts for music was Kim Petras and Sam Smith. Is it Sam Smith? I don't actually know. Kim Petras and Sam someone. And Kim Petras is a trans woman and Sam is non-binary. And they're both like superstars in the UK music. And I said that to like my family, and they were like, oh, I didn't know, I don't care. And I mean, maybe they're not into that kind of music, but like it wasn't massively publicized as like trans people get number one or whatever. And I thought maybe it could have been a big deal, but a bigger deal, which might have been good for people. I don't know. But I do think the goal is in the end that no one will care. And it would just be a line in their Wikipedia page if they want it to be, and that's it. Well, how do you feel to that, Lee?
I thought that was a wonderful answer. That's kind of where I ended up myself after the initial thought that maybe, I mean, as far as like where Ben was coming from, that, it's not something that really needs to be mentioned, when introducing them, but maybe just in their bio. But then I also see the same way you were saying that we're kind of in this in-between space where cis people seeing trans people do normal things is probably better for everyone. I did have a kind of a follow-up question about kind of like the promotion of a trans person and kind of like a position that this person was in from winning a huge event, like how much do you have to consider, that person, or have you ever felt like pressure by the larger community to be more outspoken as a trans person? And, how do you deal with something like that, those pressures coming from outside, even if it's from your own community?
Right. I think, gosh, sorry. I think a lot of trans people do feel this pressure. And I mean, maybe they feel this pressure from people like me who are like loud and out and stuff, and making not a big deal of it, but doing stuff about it. Because people will message me all the time and say things like, "I feel guilty that I'm not doing what you're doing," and I always just tell them to fuck off, because my goal is, as someone fighting for trans rights, is a future where people don't have to fight for trans rights, where people don't have to care, where they don't have to live in fear all the time that their rights might be taken away, or struggle against some bullshit system. And I feel like if people can do that, then that's good. Like I would rather that. If you're in a position where you can go stealth and just disappear, or you're in a position where you can be out as a trans person but just not have to constantly fight for your freedom, like, do it. I don't think you owe anyone anything. I think the people, there are enough people fighting for our rights, that you adding your voice, I mean, it would be great. The more people, the better. We do need more people, but if you being missing as someone fighting for our rights isn't gonna tip the tide of turn the scale of the war, or whatever you want to call it. And I think it would be really rubbish if people did feel pressured to come out and be putting themselves into a position where they're not comfortable. Like, people are good at different things. I am good at being a dickhead on the internet. Ben is obviously, obviously underqualified for this show, but no, Ben is also very good at being a dickhead on the internet. And but not everyone is. And if you're a trans person and your strengths aren't being, open and facing a load of abuse for it, then you'll try it and it'll be horrible for you, and you won't do the best for your own life, but also maybe you might not end up helping anyway because it's not your skill set, and that's fine. And you're probably good at other things. Like, maybe, one of the greatest things you can do as a trans person as well is, like, just be up to one person. Maybe it's just your partner, who's the only person in the world who knows you're trans. But maybe just on them you've set an impression, and maybe they go and tell their friends about it when you're not around, and then maybe their friends get a good not out you, but like have a strong positive opinion on trans people. And this stuff kind of filters out, and sometimes just changing one person's mind can make a big difference. But also, I just don't feel like people should feel obliged. I don't know, do you ever feel pressure to do this, Ben? Is that why you're doing it, or?
Well, I have some thoughts on this, and I definitely notice there is some pressure to be outspoken about being trans. There's also some pressure that maybe we put on ourselves, in addition to the community, but the pressure to be a good representation for the trans community. Like, I feel this in the medical field, like being a trans person who's going to be a family physician, feeling like I want to represent the trans community well in medicine, but also represent medicine well for the trans community. And I think there's that pressure that seeps in. But then on the other hand, too, in sports, like, going along with this whole topic of conversation, like, there's some cases within sports, like, granted, I would love it if we were able to see more trans people be open in sports and just say, hey, this is a normal thing. Like, that's great. But the fact is, many of those athletes in coming out are risking their ability to be allowed to play at all. So, like, if, let's say, I do a grappling sport, and I know probably if I came out as trans before I went onto the mat, I'd probably, like, I might be murdered, like, and not even exaggerating there. Like, if a cis man believes you to be a woman in a grappling or a combat sport, oftentimes, number one, their ego kicks in and they don't want to lose to a girl, so they're gonna fight extra hard. to try to beat you, and even throwing in transphobia in there too. They might just really want to hurt you, and you're in a sport where they have the ability to hurt you as part of the rule set. So in that case, like in my sport, if I ever compete again in the near future, I'm not coming out to anybody on the mat before I go out there. And I know for a lot of trans women who might lose their spot in the sport at all if they come out, it might not be worth it for them to represent the trans community in those sports. So I think it's very context dependent, and I do know that, like, it's understandable to feel that pressure to need to do that, but that's why I think Katy and I and Arden on this show, we try very hard to tell people that you should not do anything just because of peer pressure. You should not be outspoken if that's not something you want to do. You should not put yourself at risk if that's not something you want to do. You are not under any obligation to the trans community or to yourself to be put in a position where you could be hurt. And so that's kind of my take on that.
Awesome. Yeah, that's it, guys. I want to thank you for answering my questions, and you've been very generous with your time. Hopefully I can call back some other time and talk to you guys.
Yeah, thanks for calling in.
Yeah, love you,
thanks
Katy,
a lot.
but it's that was a good one.
I missed that.
Oh, I said I love you, Katy, but it's Team Ben.
It's Team Ben. Oh, yeah, you cut out.
That's Team Ben. I cut out.
Getting silenced on the Team Ben. That's because my minions are working behind the scenes to deny all internet traffic that has Team Ben in it.
They're doing one hell of a
Thanks,
job.
Lee.
Bye.
Thanks,
Thank
Lee.
you.
Good questions. We'll talk to you in the future.
Before we
are
move
going
on,
to-
we should give a shout out to the call screener, Critical Cupcake. Thank you so much for call screening today. We really appreciate you and all the work you're doing behind the scenes.
Absolutely. And I think cupcakes are critical, so that's an important part of life. It's pretty essential. But also, before we move on to the next caller, which is I think going to be our last caller, and is going to be a defense of the term transsexual. So that's going to be good to feed in with our poll. So we might end up with a nice spicy debate. But before we do that, this show was obviously the best show on this channel, but it's not the only show on this channel. There's actually loads of other shows now. Like for a while, there was just a couple of others, but like it's really taken off, and we're moving possibly towards the point of having one show every day, which is like it's all this kind of stuff. It's all skeptics. It's all cool people talking about what they know about and doing call-in shows, arguing with dickheads, and really nice people asking questions. So yeah, I recommend subscribing to this channel. It's got some good stuff and some pretty good people. But at the moment, we've got quite a few like shows coming up. So this Sunday, we've got Matt and Jimmy who are on the Sunday show, and they're doing a Zoom call at 7 p.m. Central with patrons. So if you want to join Patreon, then you can get involved in that. On Monday, we've got Forrest Valkai on Skeptalk, which is one of the newest shows. So that's really cool. Like, go and see what the vibe is on that show. Go and hashtag Katy and Team Katy in there as well if you want. On Tuesday, Jimmy is back again with Owen Morgan on Hostility. And on Wednesday, Matt and Heathen Queen are on the Wednesday show, which I've forgotten the name of. But anyway, it's exciting stuff. This channel's, taking off. So it should be good. There's Patreons for all the different shows if you're interested. There's one for just the whole channel to, get involved if you would like. But we are now going to talk to Elizabeth in North Carolina, who is, I think, going to defend the term transsexual. Hi, Elizabeth.
Hi. Well, I'm going to do my best. Let me start off by saying I don't know what I did to earn my trans status, but if there's a way that I can take it back, I apologize. I apologize for whatever I did. All right. So my defense, I guess, of when I came into the community, this is like a little over 20 years ago. Excuse me for my voice. I'm recovering from COVID right now. That was the term that was in general use in the community at the time. Then it was shortly after that people started to consider and begin to use the term transgender as a kind of reaction against the idea that transsexual, it literally puts sex in the middle of who we are when we are self-identifying. And at the time, people's primary way of initially coming to understand who we were was through shows like Jerry Springer that didn't really care about exploiting that aspect.
Right.
And so switching from transsexual to transgender as a community, that was something we did very intentional as a kind of reaction, as a response to what was going on in the mainstream at the time. Now, as for myself, I have now started to go back to that older term, transsexual, as a kind of response or reaction to what I see going on in the larger trans community. What I mean by that is that in the past, I don't know, 5-10 years, however long it's been, when I go into the trans community, more and more I see that the bulk of who's there are folks who are now identifying as non-binary. Now, I don't hold anything against people who are non-binary by any stretch of the imagination, but the point is that historically, when you said transgender and the first thing that you thought about was people who transitioned in a binary sense, then that was a term that you could use for everyone, or you would use it for us specifically, and then other groups of people would find their own terms to sort of distinguish themselves. And so now that we're sort of, I don't want to say being pushed, because that sounds like I'm making an accusation. Now that we're finding ourselves in the minority in this, well, like even within our own community space, then I just feel like it's a way to distinguish who we are, to say, it's in no way saying I have something against people who are non-binary, but it's just sort of like, it's their space now. It's a space that now is primarily something that's theirs, and to, like, we're still here, but like, how do I distinguish myself?
So
and that's just sort of.
I don't know if, like, do you have data that suggests that non-binary people are the majority? Because it doesn't seem like that would be an accurate assessment.
I think we've just had the UK census data just came back. I can't remember the percentage of non-binary people that said they were non-binary and thing. I was just going to look it up, but I think it was lower than both trans men and trans women. I'll just get the results up now. Sorry, go ahead, Ben.
Especially if we combine, like, binary trans people, both trans men and trans women. That's still, I think that's a bigger population than the non-binary community. But either way, like, with regard to the term,
so I've got the numbers.
I'm not sure.
I've got the numbers.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'll just cut with the numbers. It was 0.1% identified as trans, 0.1% identified as trans women, and 0.1% identified as either non-binary or wrote in a different gender identity. So, roughly 2 to 1, we outnumber us binary types. Anyway, sorry, carry on.
Okay.
Well,
there's no
with the assessment that. So, like, I don't know if I can get with the assessment that that non-binary people are taking over the space in this term. Like, my thought is, like, even if that was the case, like, could we not just, instead of going back to a term that has a lot of baggage associated with it, could we say things like binary trans person, non-binary trans person. I think that distinguishes it enough without the need for terms with a lot of baggage.
So my reason for, and this is like the thing I say loads on this show, but my reason for her caring about labels at all is either because I want to describe myself to someone, and maybe that's the context in which you're discussing it, and then we can talk about that more. But like the other reason, and I think the more important reason, is for fighting against oppression. And I think as trans people, all trans people, like non-binary people and like binary trans people, people who do medically transition and those who don't, on all the various steps in between, we all face some forms of transphobia. And for sure, if you medically transition, then trans healthcare affects you a lot. And trans healthcare is a big focus point of anti-trans legislation. And if you're a trans person who doesn't need trans healthcare, you don't face that huge part of trans oppression. But that doesn't mean you're there for no use to the political cause. You're not affected by transphobia. You're not someone who, I need to empathize with. It's just a trans person who shares loads of other things with me, but maybe not the healthcare thing. Because there are going to be other things. I don't play sport, and that's another huge point of oppression. And like Ben does, and I wouldn't want to come up with a special term just for trans people who played sports to describe themselves as different because all these non-sports playing trans people have turned up. I think that I understand descriptively it makes sense to say that non-binary people are different in some way from binary trans people, but really the ways in which they're different are the political oppression and stuff they face, because a lot of people can accept the idea of a trans man or trans woman because they have grown up with the categories man and woman their entire life, and that's like patriarchy saying this is how everything should be. And maybe they don't like the idea of trans people when they first encounter it, but when they're like, oh, okay, you go from man to woman or woman to man, and that's just done, I'm happy with that. Lots of people are happy with that. And then when you're like, oh, actually, there's a load of people who don't go into those two categories, it blows their minds. And I think there's, an even stronger hatred in some sense. And, patriarchy is obviously going to resist non-binary people, but also even from some trans people, because they feel like non-binary people make them look bad or are confusing people, or they're just transphobic themselves. There's all this kind of stuff that non-binary people have to go up against too, which is all just forms of transphobia. And, I'm not going to be free of transphobia until all transphobia stops. So it's in my own personal interest to fight for non-binary people's rights, even if I didn't like them. But this is why I just use the word trans. And when I say trans, I'm covering everyone, the people, however people want to identify, because I'm only really interested in describing people as a group who are oppressed by society, discussing certain forms of oppression and how to combat them. And if you wanted to say, oh, but it is important to have a separate group for people affected by medical stuff, non-binary people medically transition, some binary trans people might not for medical reasons. I just think, I'm not super sure why we need that particular distinction. And also, I guess one last thing to say on what you were saying, not trying to go for you here or anything, Elizabeth. I don't really care if I'm the only non-binary person there. Is that an issue? I don't know. What do you think to that?
Well, to go back to where y'all started, you're talking about this more sort of, which is fine, because I understand you're coming from the aspect of people who are presenting a public media face, and so you're more concerned with well, let's look at overall numbers and let's talk about what affects large groups in terms of a body politic. Yeah. I'm coming at this from a different place where I'm talking about what is my real, and maybe where you're at, where you all live, it's a different experience. But where I live, I'm talking about when I go into trans groups and am face to face with other real trans people, not numbers, but I know these people's names and I know what pronouns they use and how they self-identify. And when I go in these groups that used to be virtually 100%, if not 100%, people who were in a binary transition. It's now majority people who are identifying in a non-binary way. Now, that's not to say, and again, I'm real hesitant to use terms that sound like they push us out or something like that, because I'm very mindful of the fact that when we came in and found trans spaces that we used for our transitions in a binary sense, a lot of those spaces wouldn't have existed if it hadn't been for cross-dressers who had created spaces before we came along. So it's not like, oh, well, we deserve, or history is just going to be whatever history is, and I'm just like one person that's sort of like caught in the stream of how things are going, and I'm just trying to figure out a way to interact with the people around me that's authentic to my real experience.
I think I hear that. Obviously, I don't want all of my friends to be the same as me, because that'd be boring. But I do hang around with people who are generally like me, because that's who I get on with. Lots of my friends are metalheads, but I have friends who are trans people, and I regrettably have friends who are engineers. But it's they are the people I end up getting on with. But also, I need people the same as me. I have a few group chats of trans women who are in similar stage in their life to me, similar age, and that kind of thing, because they're going through the same stuff I go through, and I need to talk to them about that. And there are some stuff that trans men go through that I don't know about and I don't understand, because I'm not in their group chats. Because if we were in a group chat with a bunch of trans men and a bunch of trans women, we'd end up talking about our shared experiences rather than our specific ones and talking over each other. And I guess if you're in a situation where you want to go and meet up with other trans women to talk about trans women stuff, and then there are people like trans men and non-binary people there who aren't quite experiencing the same things. They're still facing transphobia, they're still dealing with healthcare, all that kind of stuff, but there is some specific stuff. I think that's fine to want those contacts. But I guess maybe if you're in a situation where like every single trans person in your whole town is non-binary and you're the only gay in the village or whatever, then I could understand you might feel like, oh, well, I wish there were other people here like me. But I think the way to view it would be, rather than I want a different term and I want a different space for people like me, it'd be like, I just want more friends like me, and I can still have all these other spaces for all these other people. I don't know. I'm not accusing you of like wanting to oust people or anything. I guess the way I would look at it is like, I want some people like me that I can talk to. But as long as I've got some, then really anyone else can be anyone else, and that's fine with me. I don't know. How do you feel to that? Does that kind of cover what you think, or is it slightly different to that?
Yeah, I mean, if I haven't made that clear, I'm not trying to control anybody else. I'm not trying to tell anybody else what they should or shouldn't do. Oh my goodness, I don't want to be responsible for the choices of other
so I wasn't
people
accusing
make
you
in
of
life.
that.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah. No, I guess
yeah.
the reason I was saying it was because like, if say I had like 5 trans women friends at my local trans women group, and it was 5 trans women and 5 trans men, and then like 5 years later there's the same 5 trans women, the same 5 trans men, and there is 1,000 non-binary people, I might be like, wow, non-binary people have really taken over this group. But I still have my 5 trans women friends, and I don't need any. Like, I mean, I have too many friends anyway. But like, I don't need any more particularly. As long as I have enough that I feel like I can vent to and get on with. The fact that there's more non-binary people there doesn't really matter to me, and it felt like when you were saying it kind of did matter to you, but maybe it doesn't.
Well, and I mean, a point that I wanted to make too about this is that, like, there's a whole umbrella of non-binary people as well, and there are probably non-binary people that more closely resemble your experience of being trans, and there's some that might seem more like me. Like you have the whole spectrum of trans femme non-binary people and trans masc non-binary people and everywhere in between and all of the above. So I'm willing to bet that there's some trans femme non-binary people that would more closely identify with issues that you've gone through than me. Like I probably wouldn't have as productive of a conversation with them as you would. Likewise with I know several trans masc people that are non-binary but have very similar experiences to me, and so I think like even lumping all of the non-binary people into this one category is a little bit problematic in that there is that huge range, and like when we're talking about there are so many non-binary people in this group, like but they're not all the same non-binary people. They're probably very different in how they identify as non-binary and how they express themselves as non-binary and all of that. So
Yeah,
well,
I mean
Doctor,
that's
we can
true
talk
as
about
well.
wrestling though. We got that we can share.
the wrestling, yeah.
Wrestling. We
What's
can talk about
wrestling?
Wrestling. Wrestling.
Oh, wrestling. Flipping American accents. I feel like sometimes I could be surrounded by trans women and not have anything in common with any of them, and not because I'm some kind of elite super trans, but because they all just like anime and they're all poly lesbians and they're all like catgirl stuff, and I'm like, that's like the trans thing, and I'm like, I don't do any of that. But then I can't really complain because I'm also an engineer, and as discussed on a show recently, I also play the bass. So I'm just a different type of stereotype. So, you know, there's different groups, and perhaps the engineer subcult can push out the catgirl subcult and take over and dominate the world. But
well, and as I've discussed
yeah, and
before,
trans men all rock climb. So.
and get together and have hair dye parties for some reason. I still haven't figured that one out yet. Well, you know, I'm part of the very small sliver of the Venn diagram and the overlap between women who self-identify as transsexual and Catholics. So,
that's interesting because I feel like I don't want to be stereotyping here. I feel like that is a type. I've encountered a couple of people who fit into that. So yeah, there's some Venn diagram there. It's interesting though. But yeah, it would be great to hear from you more about that. Actually, if you ever wanted to call back in about how you feel like Catholicism intersects with trans stuff. Actually, have we done that call before? I don't know.
Probably. There's so much to be said about it. I mean, I won't start off on a new topic because I know y'all have got to go here soon. But I'll leave you with this cliffhanger. You really, to find out who can and can't marry you when you're trans in the Catholic Church, you have to really dig into the nitty gritty. I'm just going to say that much, and it's kind of weird.
Okay, interesting. Well, I'd love to hear about that more in a future show. But thanks, Elizabeth.
Sounds good.
I hope you enjoy your
always a pleasure.
non-binary club. Bye. But yeah, it's interesting. It's always interesting to hear from people who have different takes. I guess my overall theme on anything like this is it can be easy to feel like your thing is being taken over. But as long as there's just more people, then it's good. Even if there's, by ratio, less people like you. It's all cool. But yeah, and I hope everyone who is watching this feels like us asking this spicy question hasn't just caused a load of arguments for no reason. You know, we're all in the same boat. We're all fighting for our rights and freedom and the ability to buy cat ears from Walmart or whatever trans people like these days. But yeah, it's all good, and I hope that it doesn't go too badly in the comments. But yeah, it's been a good show. We're moving on to Super Chat straight away.
So when am I doing the Weetabix? Like, how are we doing this?
Should we?
Are we setting a timer?
Should we do this now?
And then, well, I mean, we could always do it where you read the super chats, and there's a certain timer going, and I'm just like shoving my face full of Weetabix.
I'm happy to do that. Wait, should we?
Because that's kind of what we did with the
timer up? Should we get a
warheads.
timer up?
Like, yeah. So I've never
Jimmy,
had
can you get a
Weetabix
timer up, or
before,
shall I?
So
Jimmy, who's getting a timer up? I don't know if
ASMR,
you want to
everybody.
talk today. I'll get a timer up. Hang on, Ben. Don't start yet. I know what I don't want to.
How long are we going for to see? Is it how many I want to say like how many can I eat in that certain time frame? Because then.
Oh, okay. How many minutes do you want?
Yeah. How many minutes?
How many minutes do you want? 5 minutes?
I mean, these are chunky. I don't know. Maybe. Oh yeah, we can do 5 minutes. I can't even guarantee I'll get through like 3 of these dry. Like maybe not even 2. They're chunky.
3 and 5 minutes.
This is my first time ever having one of these.
Well,
I'm a small person. I don't have a big mouth like Katie does. You've admitted to that. But it's chunky. I was expecting them to be thinner.
Yeah. No, they're pretty chunk. You
chunk.
do. Right, let me get up.
This is like
big
they look
timer.
like look like the worst hash brown in the world. Like for real. It's like if you made a hash brown out of wood shavings, this is what you get.
Wait 1 second. Hang on. So if I do. No, not that. Delete. Sorry, I will just be 1 second, everyone. Ben, regale a story while I set this up.
Yeah, I mean, I can describe this more. Also, I didn't necessarily want to get the organic ones. Oh, look, I'm on the screen twice. Look at me.
Yeah.
But yeah, they only had these at like the health food store, and I just happened to come across this box of organic Weetabix. And I generally hate to buy anything with the non-GMO project label on it, but this is my only choice. So otherwise I would have had to pay like a lot of money to ship the regular ones. So
hang on, I've got to move me to one side. And then move this to one side. How does that? That nearly works.
All the fun stuff in the background.
Maybe if I it's too late to make it look good now, isn't it? I'll just delete that. You're just gonna have to deal with the plants and
now we can't even see you.
Right, okay. Ben, are you ready?
I have to do this.
You have 5 minutes to eat as many Weetabix.
Me out of the way.
The number to beat.
So you're gonna read the super chats, and I'm just gonna. Yeah, I'm ready. Let's do it.
Just gonna munch. Get through him. Okay, 3, 2, 1, go. Okay, everyone. 1999, very kind from Nicholas. I'm 54 and non-binary / agender. I had nullification bottom surgery 2 days ago. Oh, congratulations. I'm very happy with the results. Years ago, I was encouraged not to pursue surgery because I would be taking up space from a binary trans person. Oh no, is this screen flicking every time it changes a second on your screen? That's really annoying. I wonder if I can resolve that. Yeah, that's the kind of... What is it doing? Flipping OBS. It's the most awful framey bullshit I've ever seen. I wonder if it's...
My mouth instantly dried out the second I put this in my mouth.
No talking, Ben. Sorry, we're not going to be able to have the timer on screen. I'll keep people updated of what we're on because OBS is rubbish. My computer's rubbish, basically. Okay, back to Nicholas. Yeah, that's the kind of rubbish that I think that separating people into like, you know, binary trans and non-binary trans as like some kind of OBS, what are you doing? Stop fighting me. Right, everyone back. You've got my full attention. I think that's, you know, being like having this term transsexual and separating it and stuff can lead to this kind of thing where you end up with some kind of hierarchy, and I think that's kind of bullshit. And the idea that a non-binary person should step aside for a binary trans person is just bullshit. everyone's equally valid. So thanks for your message, and I'm glad that you finally got there. Next. Coming up to 3 minutes, Ben. Have you finished one yet? Keep eating, come on. 1999, another 1999 from Nicholas. 2 out of 2. Glad I said yes to me and yes to happiness. Yes, I am glad you did that too. That's great. I think if you are a non-binary person and you hear a load of binary trans people whinging about how you're taking space in them, then just imagine me telling them to fuck off and capture that energy and be yourself and be happy. We're coming up to halfway through the timer, Ben. Halfway. You've not even eaten half a wheat effect.
This is number 2.
Oh, it's number 2. Okay. Don't stop and talk. You're wasting valuable chewing seconds. 10. What's CA? Californian dollars? I don't know. Canadian dollars. What am I fucking stupid? God. From Unsaving in 2009. The Weetabix is getting to me. I'm feeling envy. 300-ish watching and 80-ish likes. Seriously, are your fingers broken? Hashtag Team UK Metalhead. That's the point for me. Hashtag gets points. Yeah, why doesn't everyone like the YouTube video right now? It's good for us. It's good for the channel. It's good for the other people. It's good for the callers, and it's good for Weetabix, who are our unofficial sponsors this episode. 1 minute 30. Next,
God damn
it. Come on, Ben. Just get it all in. Yes, nice one. I reckon you can do one more. $20 from Amargen.
What the fuck?
Katy, my favorite person. Yes. And student Dr. Ben, not as favorite as Katy, but what can you expect? Love you both and love your work. Keep on keeping on. But no hashtag, no point. Ben, you're doing well. Come on. I reckon you can get this whole one in one go.
No, I can't. It's bigger than half my face.
59 seconds. Next. $5 from Quagma TV. Could you explain social constructs and how it relates to gender? Preferably like I'm 5. Thanks. You guys are great. That is a big question. I think it would be good if you could call in and we can have this discussion. I'm watching the timer in the corner of my eye and it's making me feel like I need to talk faster. 35 seconds. Your face. Come on, Ben, you can do it. I believe. You can at least get halfway through this one. 20 seconds. Is everyone ready to count down with me? Keep going. I think you can do it. Come on. Ready? 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Oh, failure. Well, that was good. I think I could easily beat 3. That's my speculation. But we'll only know if we get loads of team bans, and that's never going to happen. So because we just got a team Arden even, and she's not even here, so she's beating you already, Ben.
What?
I think you should read out the next super chat. But to answer Quagma TV, I guess the simplest, shortest, top level overview answer I could give is gender as a social construct. Often, I mean, there's more than one way you can look at this, but the most obvious thing would be when they say girls do this, boys do this. Like girls like playing mummies and daddies, and boys like climbing trees. And then you might, maybe you just observe that, but then you start believing that's a thing, and you start telling people, and then girls feel like they shouldn't climb trees, and then boys feel like they shouldn't play mummies and daddies, and then people are stopped from doing what they want to do, and yeah, it's garbage in that sense.
Yeah,
call in. It's a good question.
I'm reading a lot about that topic, like getting into the sociology because it's fascinating. But like, I mean, social constructs are here for all kinds of categories. Like it's the human way of making sense of differences between people, and so in that humans have differences in their anatomy. It's how does society account for these differences in anatomy? What do they do with it? And that's where gender roles and gender stereotypes and everything came from. Like the same thing happened like with race. Like you still see this with race, but like we see so much rhetoric from medical history even of saying like this race has this different lung function because of XYZ, like related to their race, which like isn't really true. But it's them trying to rationalize to themselves like, why are humans different, and trying to put people in groups and then putting them into a social hierarchy based on the differences that they have.
Yeah, it benefits people to be at the top of a hierarchy. But yeah. Okay, €5 from Jotun's. Happy New Year! Yay! I'm officially out to my parents and sister. Oh, congratulations! Amazing. I hope it went well. Hope your New Year is great. Stay awesome. Thank you very much. Great news.
Katy, how do you eat these dry? Like, how is this like a normal thing for you? Like, why would you do that?
It's not that normal, but it does happen sometimes. I don't know. I just like dry food. Are you ready to read?
Oh yeah, €5 from Andrew Botella. Ben, how are you planning to research delays in transcare ethically? Well, it's going to be observational, as in like survey based. So that's really the only way you can ethically do that. It'll be self-reporting, which yeah, there is some bias involved with self-reporting, but like with regard to trans healthcare, like the whole process of diagnosis relies on self-reporting. So that's how I would do it.
$5 from Melissa. I want to see first-year resident Dr. Ben sing Like a Surgeon. Still won't make me deviate. Team felines, though. Hashtag cut in for the very first time.
It's a Weird Al song.
That's a point for me.
Yeah, so you're gonna expect me to do these fun things for you, and then you're gonna give the point to Katy. Like, what incentive do I have to do this? Like, you keep routinely choosing not me. So I have no obligation.
People wanted to see you eat a Weetabix and not me. They obviously thought there wouldn't be as good a performance as you, so...
Sure, that's it. Trying to make me feel better about Trail. 20 Canadian from Unsapien 2009 for at that other person, a vote for hashtag Team Katy. Oh, so you're giving that other person the hashtag vote that didn't get into their thing. So making sure that vote
I can
counts.
sense some saltiness going on here. By the way, the reason I said
saltiness in me, not in the Weetabix, because there's like no flavor to these at all. Like, yeah. Like I won't even give it the credit of being like because we were describing it last time as like being like a mini wheat but without the frosting on it. But like the taste is not like it's even worse. Like the texture is different. Like it's not like it. I don't know. Like it's flaky, yeah, but like sawdust flaky. Like it's just sawdust.
You know when like you're first eating chili peppers and you like don't like spicy food and you eat a chili pepper and it like blows your head off and you're like, why do people have all these different stupid chili peppers? They're horrible, they're hurting me. And then you get into spicy food and you're like, okay, I kind of like spicy food. And then when you really get into it, you're like, wow, every single chili pepper has a different, unique taste, and I can see why people are all pretentious about this. Weetabix has a subtle taste that when you eat them dry, I think stands out higher spatially in my mind than with milk. The with milk one's fine, it's a legitimate consumption method, but like, yeah, it's a higher plane.
You're an expert.
By the way, the reason I said
tasting.
The reason I said Californian dollars earlier, because my brain is rotting out of my mind, but also because I was just watching a video about private money. Anyway, $20 from DJ X. Sorry I didn't call. My daughter may be questioning her gender. She's not sure, but the real problem is that her mother will not have any of it. How can I get through to my daughter's mother about this? That is, yeah, that's a good question. It's difficult. I think it's different if you're separated or still together. I mean, all you can really do is have a conversation about it and talk about the statistics, but also maybe show her trans kids being happy. I think the key thing to tell anyone in this situation is supporting your child is the best thing to do if they're trans or if they're not trans. Because if they're not trans and you don't support them, they might just need to explore and find that on their own. But if you don't let them explore, then they're going to have a more difficult relationship with it, and possibly with you. So yeah, but it's a good call. Do call in.
Mm-hmm.
Next.
$10 from Analyzing Avatars. Have either of you heard of Alex? I do not want to butcher that name. MD, MPH, and the class he's teaching at Harvard. If so, what are your thoughts on him and the course? I'm not familiar, but I can look into this, and maybe the next time I'm on the show, I can talk more about it. It sounds like potentially something up my alley.
Him.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah. Anyway, sorry. Ben will tell you next time. $5 from £5, even better. From Grimbeard, Ben, the real imposters are the people who don't have imposter syndrome. That is so true. You are an imposter. Team nearly Dr. Venus.
Yeah. That name is never leaving me. I will forever be Dr. Venus. $20 from Noble Monster Comics. It's difficult for me to watch the afternoon shows live, but I wanted to jump in real quick to wish everyone a belated but sincere Happy New Year. Happy New Year to you as well. Much love and compassion to all. Hashtag Team Katy. See, you ended that with much love and compassion to all and then said Team Katy. So I don't know if I believe you, but it's fine. That's fine.
It's because I'm the loving and compassionate one, and you're the hateful, malicious one. That's why we know
Yeah,
that.
I'm the dickhead on Twitter, and Katy is Katy never argues with people on Twitter. Yeah, you're the doctor now. It's you.
Yay! €5 from Jayton's daughter. Team whoever is behind or Ben if equal. Oh, well, that's the hashtag Team Ben. There's your imposter syndrome sympathy vote.
There we go.
that was harder to read out
that
across lines on thought. You don't deserve any votes. Next. This is you.
£10 from Faye. Really enjoy how informative your shows are. So have some money to keep you going. Hashtag Team Katy. Hashtag Team Poppy.
Thank you very much, Faye. Very kind.
Yeah, because Katy knows she actually deserves votes. Yeah.
We have a little game and we do our little competition and ask for money like every YouTuber, but it does help the show going. This is getting more expensive as there's more shows, so it's a good channel.
And I have Weetabix dust all over my chair and my legs and the floor, so that's fun.
So what you're saying is you didn't eat them all and you cheated. 50 Swedish krona.
I ate
Puck, them. Solenda, always hashtag Team Ben.
Yay! But yeah, no, they've come apart very, very easily.
Next.
Yeah, $10 from Sarah Dye. Thank you for being out, loud, and visible. I love you both, Katy and Ben. Hashtag Team Katy. Again, you say that you love both of us, but I don't believe things without evidence, and today I'm not seeing evidence. Okay, that's just we don't even know what the punishment is for if we get enough votes. I am a skeptic. I'm a skeptic. if I, yeah, I don't know what's gonna
Well,
happen
if you
if
want
I
to think
lose
of a
this week.
punishment for me to come back, you can always try and think up one. $10 from Faisal Mirza. Everything is cool about Katie, including her music. Thank you very much. That's very kind. Obviously not the spelling of my name, but everything else. The power couple of basically a Dr. Ben and Katie is incredible. Hashtag Team Katie. Hashtag sorry Dr. Ben.
Why do they hate me today?
Today?
Today, most days they hate me. Hey, I've won a couple times.
Yeah, I think you won the first time you were on with me. And
Yeah.
everyone's been recoiling ever since.
$9.99
Good
from
for it.
Ramona. I'm 2 years on HRT on Sunday. Congrats. I'm taking a day trip next week as a
Congratulations.
little celebration. But what should I do to celebrate on the day? Also, I'm sorry, Ben, but hashtag Team Katie, hashtag transfem solidarity. You know what? We need more trans guys in the chat. Like that's really probably the answer. Come on, trans guys, get your butts to the chat and like, is it appropriate to say bros before hoes? But bros before hoes, guys, get in the side chat. Give me thumbs.
As long as you do bros before hoes and non-binary hoes too, then we're not missing anyone out.
Oh, the non-binary hoes can also be included in whichever side of this they want. They could be bros or hoes. I don't care.
Bros and hoes, maybe.
Bros
$4.99 from Claire. Ben, this is the second time I've heard you speak hypothetically about someone whose favourite colour is blue. What? Who's keeping tally? What is your favourite
It's true,
colour?
though. My favorite color is green. It's not blue. But I thought of blue because it's my background color.
Hypothetically, Ben's
Probably.
favourite colour is blue, but in practice,
No,
it's green.
I always put blue because it makes my eyes stand out more when there's blue in the background. So at least this is things that I've been told. 69.69. Nice. You get one nice per 69, so that's two nices. From Robin Talstig. Ben, is it tasty? No. Definitely hashtag Team Ben Torbjorn after that. Hell yeah, I appreciate it. And tasty, like, okay.
Thanks, Robin.
Tasty, no. Edible, yes. Would I eat it again willingly, like dry? No. Would I do it if I had to? Yeah. There's your answer on all that.
Okay. So 1 out of 2 is what you're saying. 666 from Raven Alphen. Wonderful callers tonight and equally great answers as food for thought. Hashtag Team Katie to support my Twitter champ. Thanks, Ray. Sorry, Ben.
I'm not feeling the love today. I'm not. It's
that's
okay.
That's because you're
Y'all
dried out from the Weetabix.
I'm gonna go. Yeah, I do a punishment, and I'm gonna go cry after this from all the not love I'm getting from this chat. So it's okay. Here we go. $5 from Wolfover. Hashtag Team Venus. And we're starting maybe to close the gap a little bit, but I appreciate it.
We've got a 69 situation on the score. Nice.
We do. Oh my god.
$10 from Wolfover. I don't know if it's allowed to double vote, but we need more Ben love. Hashtag Dr. Ben. I don't know what the situation on double voting
so you're allowed
is.
to.
I presume so. I'll allow it this time.
We've allowed it for every other time. Like people have.
We need hashtag Team Poppies and that's all the super chats. Okay, we've lost our chance. You've missed out. Ben loses. Too slow. Oh no, we're back.
I think that's the one that we just read. So yeah, we read that one.
You're not allowed to triple vote. $4.99 from Claire. Well, I guess I am hashtag Team Katie. Blue is the best color. So you lost on that. If you'd said blue, you could have had an extra point.
Well, I'm not gonna lie though. I'm not gonna lie though about my favorite color. just to please. I'm not gonna lie to please the audience.
How much money do you need to be paid to lie about your favorite color? And is anyone willing to
that's
super
an
chat
interesting.
it?
That's an interesting philosophical question. I don't know the answer to that.
Because like people often like, what's your price to like kill your firstborn child or something? Because it's a moral dilemma. But I think picking small lies, like what is the minimum you'd need to be paid to tell someone they look nice when they actually don't, when you had already promised that you would never do that? Like, would you be pushed over the edge for just a single drink? or like, do you need a lot of money? What's your integrity? Wow. I've got
That's
another
a
one,
good
€23.99 from Ella Faber. I've seen Ben suffer so much on this show. Here is some love for you. You're an absolute hero. Hashtag Team Ben.
Yeah, I've suffered a lot. So Jimmy's been picking on me like every time, and even on stream for the New Year's stream was like all apologetic and trying to be nice to me for once. And I do the Warhead challenge with Arden, and I literally burnt my tongue off for this show.
Hopefully.
And then people call into the New Year's show to call me like insults because I hurt myself on it, because I'm not tough enough to handle more suffering, because apparently they like to make themselves suffer. So like I don't know what it is with people like abusing me, but y'all can, like, if y'all are gonna vote for Katy and you're gonna be abusers, then maybe I don't want your votes, like, for real. Katy, your supporters are mean to me.
Well, I've been carefully cultivating the most abusive cult online, according to the gender criticals, so maybe they're just right. $5 from Melissa. My culture doesn't distinguish between green and blue. Yeah, I think that's actually quite common for a lot of languages, or cultures, or whatever it is, the distinction there. Roy Gabiv is a spectrum after all, but I'm still with hashtag Team Katy Cat. Yeah, no, I think that there were quite a few cultures that didn't have that distinction. Oh, sorry, I'm gonna sneeze. Oh no.
So yeah, I'm gonna respond to this, Jimmy. I'm gonna respond to this one. Yeah, y'all can call me wimpy, but here's the thing. Like, when you're so insecure that you need to validate your ego by making yourself suffer with sour candy, is kind of telling, because, you know, the ways that I suffer are beneficial to humanity. Like, I went to med school. I'm almost done with med school. I've been in college for, what is this? Like, this is year 9 for me. So I've been in school after high school for 9 years. 4 of them have been the most brutal years of my life. And I joined the army. So if y'all want to talk about me not tolerating like challenges, like y'all can go to med school and join the army and then tell me I'm not uncomfortable enough. I fucking dare you. I'll do a 20 for a patron challenge just to be. That's fine. You can if your ego needs that, you can have it. But because I know the things that I've done to challenge myself aren't pointless. I'm doing things that actually matter for the world.
I think it actually matters if Jimmy eats 20 warheads on Patreon, and so that's why everyone should go sign up. $49.99. Thank you very much. That's a very kind donation from Captain Red Bull. Hashtag Team Ben for the win. Maybe, yeah, no, yeah. Well, we're only one off, I think. I think that brings us up to 11:10. So
yeah, it brings it closer. Brings it closer.
Is that the last super chat?
Here we go.
You've only got a few seconds to send one if you're going to send one, because here we go.
Here we go.
Each.
£5 from Faye. Venus deserves a comeback. Hashtag Dr. Venus. Thank you. Thank you for tying this up.
Well, I think that's pretty bad. Come on, like, can we
need
really
3
end now?
more to declare a winner. So we don't have a winner at this for the total, but at least we close the gap. So even if it's a tie, that's fine with me. Like, because then Katy didn't win.
It's not about winning, it's about stopping other people from winning that counts.
Yeah. It's the strategy game.
So I've never had a warhead. What is it? Just a really sour sweet?
Yeah, it's a hard candy, and it's like really sour on the outside, and they're okay, but it's like you start adding more and more of them, and it's like corrosive, like in your mouth.
Right,
and
yeah,
it's
eating acid. It's probably bad for
it's
your
a
stomach
problem.
too, isn't it?
It wasn't too bad for the stomach. It was mostly my tongue.
So do you have to eat 20 in one mouthful?
No, what happened
Is that
was
the
I
thing?
would put one in and then suck all of the sour off, and then put another one in after. Like, it was for every $10 or more super chat, I had to put a new one in. And yeah, and my head, like my face was swollen afterwards because like my parotid glands
Really?
were like in such overdrive. Like my face was swollen afterwards. So it was
Brutal.
yeah, it was
$10
brutal.
from Esther. Bo, just wanted to thank you for doing this show. Katy cracked my egg on the first show. Oh, well, that puts you in an elite crew of trans people who were transified, transgenderismisted by this show. So that's the real divide. It's not transsexuals and transgenders. It's transatlantic call-in show egg crackies and the riff-raff. That's great, Esther. Nice to hear from you. But
I saw more going in.
Oh, you saw more.
before-
Okay, let's see if any more
Yeah.
come out on the queue.
Yeah.
Oh, for goodness sake! Been defeated.
$15
This is
from
you.
Wolfover. #Ben for trans men. Thank
No,
you.
Ben
Thank
for
you for your support.
Tansman.
Tansman. I'm a tansman.
$5 from Faisal Mirza. Driving the knife. Sorry again, Dr. Venus. #Team Katy. Yes, back up to 12 piece. And we need one more vote for Call It for 25. So this is it, the final. All previous votes don't count to anything, and the next one's the only important vote. No, they're all important.
Everyone's vote is important.
When you wrote driving the knife, I know what you mean now, like twisting the knife. I originally thought you meant driving the wife, but had mistyped it. This one's yours.
$5 from Alyssa. #Team Blue. #Go Navy. I want to puke at saying that. #Team Women in STEM. No, I pick on the Navy. Like, people that don't know this, like, if you're in the military, it is your obligation to pick on the other branches. It's like a sibling rivalry. We mean it out of love, but I have to shit on the Navy. That's just how it is.
Is it like rock, paper, scissors, or?
Well, no, it's just you pick on everybody, and then when the second another national military jumps in, then you all, as the U.S., pick on them. So it's like there's a big football game every year between Navy and Army, and you'll see the Twitter comments and the posts like going back and forth, and like the Navy would pick on Army, and then like somebody from the Canadian Army showed up in the chat and was like, yeah, something, and then the Navy was like, no, like they don't care. Like, we'll be allies as long as it's our own U.S. forces, but we'll still pick on each other.
I mean, that does seem like the US way. You know, if there's some kind of young democracy somewhere that needs overthrowing, replacing with a dictator, you all team up to bully them. So it's all good. Jimmy says you have to eat 150 warheads. Okay, that's quite a lot of sweets to eat, even if they're not sour. It's a lot of sugar. Got to brush your teeth after that. What happened to your tongue? $20 from Light Halcyon. My last chat failed, so let's try #Team Ben and throw in a #Team Poppy. Katie's love of Weetabix and hatred of mayo is making me question her taste, though.
So this just
What's
canceled
that? That's kind of
each other
offensive
out.
to vote.
Yeah,
That's offensive
just
to
negated.
vote.
both votes.
We still don't have a winner. We still can't declare a winner. We can't end the show until we can declare a winner. Oh no! Why did I say it?
50 Swedish kroner from Puck Tholander, hashtag Team Ben for the win. Thank you for your support. We are once again tied up. And I
think
hope we can.
That puts you ahead. 69,
does it?
69 from Robin Taustig. There's nothing like a bad loser. Hashtag Team Ben.
Finally making progress. Thank you everybody for your support. I know Katy gets confident very early.
$5 from oh, it's yours actually. You can read it.
€5 from DIY Patrick. Green is objectively the best color. Hashtag Team Ben. See, there we go. I didn't need to lie to get support.
Okay, fair. But how much would you be paid to lie if it would make you lose? If the lie you told made you lose, how much do you need to be paid?
Wait, if telling the lie made me lose, or if telling the truth made me lose, so I would need to lie to not lose?
If telling the lie made you lose the transatlantic call-in show, hashtag Team Battle, just by 1 point, but I paid you secretly afterwards, how much would I have to pay you?
I don't think I would go for that. I don't think I would.
Well, no, some money. If I was like, I have just mugged Elon Musk and I have all whatever's left of his fortune, $50 billion in cash, you wouldn't do it.
Oh no, I probably do.
That's the integrity.
Money.
Even if it was just a $5. Elon Musk
yeah, like it depends on who it's coming from.
Right, okay. Well, there you go. That's the interesting moral question. I think that's all the super chats we have. Ben is the winner. Maybe that means I have to eat Weetabix next time. Who knows? Why do I keep hitting my hand on the microphone stand? Thank you very much, everyone, for watching. This was a good show. I hope the comments aren't too spicy. Be nice to people. Be horrible to me instead. Thank you very much for watching. Thank you very much to the call screener and to... We've never had one of them before. I think you should make it flash over the other person's whole screen. Yes, thank you for...
Yeah, that's correct. It's like a censor bar. Yeah.
Thank you everyone for watching the show.
I look so tall.
And we'll see you again soon. We'll see you next week. And and don't forget to subscribe and like the video. Anyway, bye.